Have you ever wondered where it all began? Not just history, but civilization itself. We often talk about the Egyptians and the Greeks. But what if I told you there was a civilization that appeared long before them, seemingly out of nowhere? They emerged almost overnight, fully formed, with sophisticated writing, advanced mathematics, complex astronomy, established laws, and even intricate medicine. The big question is, who taught them? This is the story of Sumer, the cradle of civilization. Picture this. It's over 6,000 years ago, in a land we now call southern Iraq, between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. This region, Mesopotamia, the land between two rivers, was a fertile crescent. And here, a people known as the Sumerians built the world's first true cities, Uruk, Eridu. These weren't just small settlements. They were bustling metropolises with monumental architecture, complex social structures, and vibrant economies. While most of the world was still in the Stone Age, the Sumerians were living in a surprisingly modern society. But the most baffling part isn't what they achieved, but how quickly they did it. It wasn't a slow, it was a cultural explosion, a sudden leap in human progress that has puzzled historians and archaeologists for centuries. Let's start with their most famous invention, writing. Before the Sumerians, there was no written history. Everything was passed down orally, generation to generation. Then, around 3500 BC, the Sumerians developed cuneiform, the earliest known writing system. Using a reed stylus, they pressed wedge-shaped marks onto wet clay tablets. It started as a way to record transactions, how many bushels of barley, or money sheep. But it quickly evolved. They wrote down laws, epic poems like the Epic of Gilgamesh, which predates Homer's Iliad by at least 1,500 years. They recorded star charts, medical procedures, and even student homework. Think about that for a moment. The very concept of writing, of preserving human thought on a physical medium, began here. It's the foundation of everything we do today, from books to emails to the very video you're watching now. And it just appeared. And then there's their mathematics and astronomy. The Sumerians had a sexagesimal system, which is a basic counting system. Does that sound strange? You use it every single day. We have 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, the 360 degrees in a circle. That's from the Sumerians. They were meticulous astronomers. They charted the constellations, identified planets visible to the naked eye like Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, Venus, and Mercury, and they created a lunar calendar with 12 months. They could predict eclipses and track the movements of celestial bodies with stunning accuracy. They believed the stars held sway over human destiny, laying the groundwork for astrology, which was, in essence, their early form of astronomy. How did a society, supposedly just emerging from prehistory, develop such a complex understanding of the cosmos? Their social and legal structures were equally advanced. While the Code of Hammurabi is more famous, it was based on earlier Sumerian legal codes, like the Code of Yornamu. These weren't just simple rules. They were comprehensive laws covering everything from property rights and contracts to marriage and assault. They established the principle of an eye for an eye, but also included fines for lesser offenses. This shows a society deeply concerned with justice, order, and fairness. They built massive ziggurats, stepped pyramids that served as temples, demonstrating incredible architectural and engineering skill. They organized labor, managed large-scale irrigation projects to turn the arid land into a breadbasket, and had a complex hierarchy of priests, scribes, artisans, and farmers. This level of organization is something we expect from a civilization with centuries of development behind it, not one that seemingly sprang into existence. This is the core of the mystery. Most civilizations show a clear, slow path of development. You can see the gradual progression from primitive tools to more advanced ones, from simple huts to complex buildings. With Sumer, it's different. The archaeological record suggests a sudden, unprecedented leap. It's like they skipped several rungs on the developmental ladder. One moment, you have simple farming communities, and the next, you have cities with writing, law, and astronomy. This has led to all sorts of theories, from the mundane to the extraordinary. Some scholars argue that the suddenness is just an illusion, a gap in the archaeological record, and that a slower development did happen. We just haven't found the evidence yet. They suggest that earlier, simpler forms of writing on perishable materials like wood or animal skins might have existed, but simply rotted away. Others propose that the Sumerians were a migratory group who brought their advanced culture with them from an unknown homeland. The Sumerian language itself is a language isolate, meaning it's unrelated to any other known language, ancient or modern. This linguistic anomaly supports the idea that they came from somewhere else. But from where? No one knows. Their own myths and legends offer a tantalizing, if fantastical, explanation. They wrote of gods, called the Anunnaki, who came down from the heavens and gifted humanity with the tools of civilization. The Sumerian king list, a clay tablet, speaks of kings who reigned for tens of thousands of years before a great flood, and of kingship descending from heaven. Of course, the most famous and controversial theories come from authors like Zacharias Sitchin, who interpreted these myths literally. He proposed that the Anunnaki were not gods, who genetically engineered humans to be their workforce and taught the Sumerians their advanced knowledge. Now, it's crucial to state that this interpretation is rejected by mainstream scientists, historians, and archaeologists. There is no concrete evidence to support the ancient astronaut theory. The academic consensus is that the Anunnaki were the gods of the Sumerian pantheon, and their stories are myths, not historical records of alien contact. But the fact that these theories even exist speaks to the sheer scale of the Sumerian mystery. The achievements of the Sumerians are so remarkable, so seemingly out of place for their time, that it's tempting to look for an explanation that is equally extraordinary. So, where does that leave us? We have a civilization that laid the foundation for the modern world. They invented the wheel, the sailboat, the plow, the concept of a 24-hour day, and the very first written story. They built cities when most of humanity lived in scattered villages. They mapped the stars, while others just looked at them in wonder. And they did it all in a historical blink of an eye. Was it a lost history we haven't unearthed? Were they brilliant migrants from an unknown land? Or did they have some kind of help, as their own myth suggests? The truth is, we don't know. The clay tablets have been silent on this for millennia. The Sumerians appeared on the world stage, set it on a new course, and then faded into history, absorbed by later empires like the Akkadians and Babylonians. But their legacy is all around us, embedded in the very structure of our time, our laws, and our stories. They are the great, unsolved puzzle of the dawn of history. Who were the Sumerians? And who, or what, taught them? The mystery endures. Did you know there are over 500,000 ancient tablets that might tell a completely different story of human origins? And get this, they describe beings who came from the sky. Let's dive into the world of cuneiform tablets and the secrets they hold. Way back, over 5,000 years ago, in Mesopotamia, modern-day Uruk, a civilization called the Sumerians, developed one of the very first forms of writing. It wasn't pen and paper. They used a reed stylus to press wedge-shaped marks into wet clay tablets. This writing is called cuneiform, which literally means wedge-shaped. These tablets were then baked, either in the sun or in a kiln, making them incredibly durable. That's why so many have survived for millennia, preserving everything from grocery lists and legal codes to epic poems and astronomical observations. It's like having a direct window into the daily life and deepest beliefs of a long-lost world. Now, among these hundreds of thousands of tablets, we find some truly mind-bending stories. We're all familiar with the creation stories from major religions, but the Sumerian texts offer a version that predates them all. According to these tablets, humanity didn't just appear. We were engineered. Think about that for a second. These ancient texts describe a deliberate act of creation by a group of advanced beings. This brings us to the Anunnaki. The word itself translates to something like those who from heaven to earth came. These tablets, particularly those translated by scholars like Zacharias Sitchin, paint a vivid picture. They speak of the Anunnaki as beings from a distant planet in our own solar system. This planet supposedly has a long, elliptical orbit, bringing it into our part of the solar system only once every 3,600 years. Why did they come here? The tablets suggest it was for gold, not for jewelry or wealth as we think of it, but for a much more critical purpose: to save their own planet. The theory goes that Nibiru's atmosphere was deteriorating, and they needed gold, atomized into a fine powder, to repair it. A sort of planetary sunscreen. So they journeyed to Earth, a planet rich in this precious metal. Initially, the Anunnaki themselves toiled in the mines, primarily in what is now southern Africa, but the work was grueling, and eventually, the working-class Anunnaki rebelled against their leaders. They needed a new labor force. This is where the story takes a turn that sounds like science fiction. The chief scientist, a figure named Enki, proposed a solution: create a worker being, a primitive laborer. According to the cuneiform epics, like the Atrahasis, the Anunnaki took a species already on Earth, an early hominid, perhaps Homo erectus, and upgraded their DNA. They mixed their own genetic material with that of this primitive Earthling. The texts describe a process of genetic manipulation, creating a hybrid being. This new creation was what the Sumerians called the Lulu, a primitive worker, the very first human, or, as the texts say, man was created in their image and after their likeness. Sound familiar? This process wasn't a one-and-done deal. The tablets describe many trials and errors, failed experiments resulting in strange creatures, before they finally perfected the design. The first successful humans were sterile hybrids, unable to reproduce on their own. They were designed simply to be workers, to mine the gold and serve the Anunnaki. However, as time went on, did you know there's a story older than the Bible? Yet it sounds almost exactly like the creation story in Genesis. What if I told you that the famous account of God creating the heavens and the earth in 7 days, the story of Adam and Eve, and even the Great Flood, might have been inspired by a much more ancient tale? This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's a journey back in time to the heart of ancient Mesopotamia, where we find a story called the Enuma Elish. The biblical authors seem to have taken this popular pagan myth and deliberately reframed it to tell their own story. A story of one benevolent God who creates with purpose and loves his creation, rather than a gang of squabbling, violent deities. But the connections don't stop at creation. Let's talk about the Great Flood. In the Bible, God sees that the world is filled with wickedness and decides to wipe it out with a flood, saving only Noah, his family, and 2 of every animal on an ark. An almost identical story exists in another Mesopotamian epic, the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is even older than the Enuma Elish. In this story, the gods are annoyed by the noise of humanity. Sound familiar? They decide to send a massive flood to destroy them. However, one god, Ea, the same clever god from the Enuma Elish, has a soft spot for a wise man named Ea. In a dream, Ea secretly warns Utnapishtim, telling him to build a giant boat, an ark, and to bring his family, craftsmen, and the seed of all living things on board. Utnapishtim follows the instructions. The flood comes, raging for 6 days and 6 nights, destroying all life on Earth. When the waters recede, the boat lands on a mountain. To see if the land is dry, what does Utnapishtim do? He releases a dove, then a swallow, and finally, a raven. The raven doesn't return, so he knows it's safe to emerge. He then offers a sacrifice to the gods, who are so pleased that they grant him and his wife eternal life. A man warned by a god to build a boat to escape a world-ending flood. He takes his family and animals on board. The boat lands on a mountain. He sends out birds to check for dry land. The parallels to the story of Noah are impossible to ignore. From the reason for the flood overpopulation and noise to the specific details of building the boat and sending out birds, the stories are breathtakingly similar. So what does all this mean? Does it mean the Bible is untrue? Not at all. What it shows is that the biblical authors were part of a wider cultural conversation in the ancient Near East. They weren't writing in a vacuum. They were familiar with the great stories and myths of their powerful neighbors, the Babylonians and Assyrians. Instead of just copying them, they adapted and transformed them to express their unique theology and worldview. The biblical writers did something similar. They took a familiar story framework, the creation myth, or the flood myth, and filled it with their own radical new ideas. Ideas about a single, loving God, about the inherent dignity of humanity, and about a covenant relationship between God and people. The discovery of these ancient texts, like the Enuma Elish and the Epicum Gilgamesh in the 19th century, was revolutionary. It gave us an incredible window into the world of the Old Testament, helping us understand the cultural context in which it was written. It's a story that has been told and retold for millennia, a testament to our enduring human quest to understand where we come from. Have you ever wondered how humanity went from small hunter-gatherer tribes to building massive cities seemingly overnight? How did one small region on Earth, ancient Mesopotamia, suddenly invent almost everything we consider the foundation of civilization? We're talking about agriculture, city-states, written laws, complex science, and even medicine. Mainstream history tells us it was a gradual process, a natural human evolution. But what if there's another explanation? An explanation that's been hidden in plain sight, encoded in the world's oldest written texts. This isn't just a wild story. It's based on the translations of ancient Sumerian clay tablets, thousands of them, unearthed in modern-day Iraq. These tablets, written in cuneiform, tell a story that is epic in scale. Let's set the stage. Around 6,000 years ago, something incredible happened in the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. This area, known as Sumer, experienced an unprecedented cultural explosion. Suddenly, we see the emergence of agriculture, not just simple farming, but large-scale, organized agriculture with sophisticated irrigation systems, canals, and reservoirs. The Sumerians weren't just growing enough to feed themselves, they were creating massive surpluses, which allowed for something entirely new. Cities. Before Sumer, there were no cities. People lived in scattered villages. But here, we see the rise of cities like Uruk, Ur, and Eridu, complete with massive temples called ziggurats, bustling markets, and organized societies. How did they make this leap so quickly? The Sumerian texts claim the Anunnaki taught them. They provided the knowledge of farming, how to domesticate animals, and how to manage water resources to turn a harsh landscape into a fertile crescent. Could this explain the sudden agricultural revolution that fueled the entire growth of civilization? With cities came the need for order. And again, Sumer delivers. They gave us the first written law codes, long before the famous Code of Hammurabi. Decode of Uruk, for example, laid out rules for everything from property disputes to personal injury. It was a sophisticated legal system designed to govern a complex urban society. Where did this advanced concept of justice and social order come from? Was it simply a human invention born of necessity? Or was there an external influence guiding them? The texts suggest the Anunnaki established these rules, appointing kings to rule on their behalf and maintain order among the burgeoning human population. It was a system of divine kingship, where the rulers were seen as intermediaries between the gods and the people. But perhaps the most startling aspect of Sumerian knowledge is their understanding of science and astronomy. These ancient people had an incredibly advanced knowledge of the cosmos. They knew about the planets in our solar system, including planets beyond Saturn, which weren't officially discovered by modern science until the age of the telescope centuries later. Their tablets depict a solar system with planets orbiting the sun, not the Earth. They had a sophisticated mathematical system based on the number 60, which is why we still have 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, and 360 degrees in a circle. They could predict eclipses and track the movement of stars with stunning accuracy. How is this possible for a civilization that supposedly just emerged from the Stone Age? But their knowledge seems to go far beyond simple observation. The Sumerian records attribute this knowledge directly to the Anunnaki. They claimed these gods showed them the heavens, taught them mathematics, and gave them the calendar. The tablets even describe the planets in detail, sometimes referring to their colors and relative sizes. And it doesn't stop there. Sumerian texts also describe advanced medical practices. They had surgical instruments, and their texts list hundreds of medical remedies for various ailments. They understood the importance of hygiene and even had a concept of contagion. While some of their practices were mixed with magical rituals, the underlying medical knowledge is surprisingly modern. They performed brain surgery or trepanation. And there's evidence some patients even survived these risky procedures. Did they develop all this through trial and error in just a few centuries? Or, as the theory suggests, did they receive a helping hand from beings with far more advanced knowledge? So, who were these Anunnaki? Most academics argued that Sitchin and others have mistranslated the tablets, seeing advanced technology and aliens where there are only myths and metaphors for natural phenomena. They believe the gods were simply personifications of forces like the sun, wind, and water, and the stories were allegorical. But the questions remain. Can we really dismiss all of this as mere myth? How do we explain the sheer depth and accuracy of Sumerian knowledge? Why did they create such detailed, consistent, and seemingly historical records about these beings if they were just fairy tales? The tablets are not written like myths. They are written like historical logs, with lists of kings, records of events, and detailed celestial data. Whether you believe the Anunnaki were real extraterrestrials or simply powerful metaphors, their story forces us to look at our own origins with fresh eyes. It challenges the comfortable narrative that we are the sole masters of our destiny, the pinnacle of evolution on this planet. The story of Sumer and the Anunnaki suggests that our past may be far stranger, more complex, and more incredible than we could ever imagine. They were described as powerful beings, the ones who from heaven to earth came. But who are the Anunnaki really? Were they gods, aliens, or something else entirely? Let's journey back thousands of years to ancient Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, to uncover the truth behind one of history's most fascinating and controversial subjects. The word Anunnaki itself comes from the ancient Sumerian language. Anu means sky or heaven, Na means and Ki means earth. A more common interpretation, however, is princely offspring or those of royal blood. This name immediately tells us they were seen as beings of immense importance, a noble lineage. They weren't just spirits. They were a structured, powerful group that held a central place in the Sumerian, Akkadian, Babylonian. So, what did these ancient civilizations believe? They were the architects of civilization. According to the myths, after creating the world, the gods found the labor of maintaining it to be too tiresome. This is where the story of humanity's creation takes a fascinating turn. Faced with a workers' strike, the god Enki proposed a solution: create a new, lesser being to do the work. In Thaisbio, humanity was created as a workforce, freeing the Anunnaki to focus on more important, divine matters. Humans needed the gods for rain, for good harvests, and for protection from chaos. The heaven they came from wasn't a spiritual realm. It was another planet. The divine radiance described in the text was the glow of their technology. Their flying chariots were spacecraft, and their powerful weapons were advanced technology. Sitchin's interpretations have been overwhelmingly rejected by mainstream historians, archaeologists, and scholars of ancient languages. Critics point out that his translations of Sumerian cuneiform are often idiosyncratic and not supported by academic consensus. They argued that he takes mythological stories, which were meant to explain the world in symbolic and spiritual terms, and reads them as literal, historical, and scientific records. It doesn't necessarily have to be interpreted as a literal recipe for genetic engineering. However, despite the lack of academic support, the ancient astronaut theory has captured the public imagination. Why? Because it offers a compelling and epic narrative. It taps into our modern fascination with space travel and the possibility of alien life. It provides an alternative explanation for the sudden explosion of knowledge and civilization in ancient Sumer, the invention of writing, law, astronomy, and complex architecture. Was it all just human ingenuity? Or did we have a little help from off-world? Whether you see them as mythological gods, symbolic representations of natural forces, or ancient astronauts who kick-started human civilization, the Anunnaki remain a powerful and enduring part of our collective story. They are a testament to the sophistication of the world as first civilization and their quest to understand their place in the cosmos. The stories of the Anunnaki, carved into clay tablets thousands of years ago, continue to challenge our understanding of history, religion, and the very origins of humanity. So, who were they? The ancient Mesopotamians saw them as the divine beings who created and controlled the world. Modern theorists see them as extraterrestrial visitors. The truth may be lost to the mists of time, but the legend of those who from heaven to earth came continues to inspire our debate and wonder. Imagine vast cities, once teeming with life, now lying untouched, buried beneath the endless sands of the desert. These aren't just ruins. They're entire civilizations waiting to be rediscovered. The people who gave us writing, the wheel, and the very concept of a city. Our quest takes us to the heart of ancient Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, a land once called the Fertile Crescent. Around 6,000 years ago, while much of the world was still in the Stone Age, the Sumerians were building sprawling metropolises. But where did it all begin? Let us start our journey at what many historians believe to be the world as very first city. According to Sumerian mythology, Eridu was founded by the god Enki himself. It was a sacred place, a center of worship and pilgrimage. Archaeologists digging here have unearthed a sequence of temples, built one on top of the other over centuries. The earliest layers date back to around 5400 BC. Picture a small shrine made of mud brick, which, over thousands of years, grew into a monumental ziggurat, a stepped pyramid reaching for the heavens. This wasn't just a building, it was a testament to their faith and their connection to the divine. Eridu was more than just a collection of houses. It was the spiritual heart of a nascent civilization. The artifacts found here: pottery, tools, an intricate seal's paint, a picture of a sophisticated society, organized around religion and trade. But as powerful as it was, Eridu would soon be eclipsed by an even greater metropolis. Welcome to Uruk, arguably the most important city of the ancient world. If Eridu was the spiritual birthplace, Uruk was the world's first true urban center. By 3200 BC, Uruk was a bustling city of over 50,000 people, surrounded by massive defensive walls stretching for nearly 10 kilometers. Can you imagine the sheer scale of that? In a world of small villages, Uruk was a giant. It was here, in Uruk, that one of humanity's greatest inventions was born. Initially, writing, known as cuneiform, started as simple pictures to keep track of goods, barley, livestock, and jars of beer. But it quickly evolved into a complex system capable of recording laws, literature, and epic stories. The most famous of these is the Epic of Gilgamesh, a legendary king who ruled Uruk. His tale of adventure, friendship, and the search for immortality is one of the oldest surviving works of literature. Uruk wasn't just a political and economic powerhouse. It was an intellectual and cultural beacon, a place where art, architecture, and innovation flourished. Walking through its ruins today, you can still feel the energy of this ancient megacity. But Uruk's story is just one chapter in the grand saga of Sumer. Our next stop is the legendary city of Yore. If you've ever heard the story of Abraham from the Bible, this city rose to prominence around 2100 BC and became the capital of a vast Sumerian empire. Yore was a major port on the Persian Gulf, a hub of international trade connecting Mesopotamia with lands as far away as India. The most spectacular discovery at Yore was the royal tombs. In the 1920s, archaeologist Sir Leonard Woolley unearthed a series of graves belonging to Sumerian kings and queens. But these weren't ordinary burials. Inside, he found a breathtaking hoard of treasures. Golden helmets, intricate jewelry made of lapis lazuli, and musical instruments like the famous lyre of Yore. The answer isn't a single catastrophic event, but a slow, gradual decline. The climate in Mesopotamia began to change. The rivers Tigris and Euphrates, the lifeblood of Sumerian civilization, shifted their courses. Even today, the adventure of discovery is far from over. Modern technology like satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar is revealing anomalies under the desert, outlines of buildings, canals, and even entire neighborhoods that have never been excavated. Archaeologists believe that less than 10% of these ancient Sumerian sites have been properly explored. For example, recent surveys have hinted at the existence of a massive urban center near the site of Gursu, another important Sumerian city. They've found evidence of a vast canal system and residential areas that suggest a population much larger than previously thought. It's a tantalizing thought, isn't it? Entire Sumerian cities, with their temples, palaces, and archives of cuneiform tablets, could still be lying just a few meters beneath our feet, waiting for the next generation of explorers to uncover their secrets. Each new discovery adds another piece to the puzzle of our shared human history. These lost cities are not just piles of mud brick, they are the foundations of our own world. The Sumerians gave us concepts we take for granted today: timekeeping, astronomy, and the very idea of living together in organized communities. By studying them, we learn more about ourselves. The quest to unearth Sumer is a reminder that history is not a closed book. It's a living, breathing story that is still being written, or rather, still being excavated from beneath the desert sands. Have you ever wondered what secrets lie buried beneath our feet? We often think of ancient Egypt or Rome, but what if I told you that entire cities, the very first cities in human history, are still waiting to be discovered under the endless sands of the desert? We're talking about Sumer, the cradle of civilization, a place of myths, legends, and incredible innovation. We're going on an archaeological adventure to uncover the lost cities of Sumer and ask a question that has baffled historians for decades. Let's journey back more than 6,000 years to ancient Mesopotamia, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in modern-day Iraq. This is where civilization as we know it began, and built monumental cities when most of the world was still living in scattered small villages. But the shifting sands of time have hidden much of their world from us. The deepest, earliest layer dated back to around 5400 BC. They had found it. They had found Eridu. The city of the gods was real. The excavations revealed a sophisticated society with impressive architecture and a deep religious devotion, confirming its sacred status in the ancient world. But Eridu was just the beginning. Not far away lies the legendary city of Uruk. If Eridu was the first city, Uruk was the first metropolis. It is one of the best preserved monuments from ancient Mesopotamia and stands today as a powerful symbol of Sumerian faith and architectural genius. The incredible thing is, these discoveries are just the tip of the sand dune. We've likely only uncovered a fraction of the Sumerian world. Geopolitical instability in the region has made large-scale excavation difficult for decades. But as things slowly improve, a new generation of archaeologists is returning. According to their tablets, these were a group of powerful deities who came from the heavens to earth. They were the ones who created humanity, who taught them the arts of civilization, and who ruled over them as kings. The texts describe them in vivid detail, their conflicts, their decisions, and their direct interactions with mortals. For thousands of years, the Anunnaki were central to life in Mesopotamia. A combination of factors, including constant warfare between the cities, environmental changes like increased soil salinity which ruined their crops, and the rise of new powers like the Akkadians and Babylonians, led to the slow erosion of Sumerian culture and language. As these new empires took over, they absorbed and adapted Sumerian myths. One of the most intriguing and controversial comes from comparing Sumerian lore with the beliefs of the Hopi people of North America. The Hopi have ancient traditions about the Katsanam, or Kashinas, spiritual beings who came from the stars to guide humanity. These Katinam are said to have taught the Hopi how to live, how to farm, and the principles of a peaceful society, much like the Anunnaki were said to have taught the Sumerians. The theories suggest a possible connection, proposing that the Anunnaki didn't just disappear, but perhaps left Earth. Could these beings, described as coming from the heavens, have simply returned to where they came from? Some interpretations of Hopi prophecies speak of the return of the blue star Kashina, a celestial event that will herald a new age. Could this be linked to the supposed departure and eventual return of the Anunnaki? Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey back in time. The legacy of Sumer is all around us, and the greatest discoveries may still be ahead. If you enjoyed this exploration, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure into the past. See you next time.